Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now from our Abuja studio is Rotimi Oyekanmi, the Chief Press Secretary to the Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, to give us the electoral umpire's views and position on the entire Zamfara governorship saga in the light of the ruling of the Supreme Court on Friday. Rotimi Oyekanmi, you're welcome to the morning show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good morning. It's good to see you again. Well, it took
Thank you.
the Independent National Electoral Commission a little while before he decided to issue a statement on the Supreme Court ruling. What exactly happened? What was, responsible for that? Because that delay caused some anxiety. People were wondering whether INEC was going to reject the Supreme Court ruling. Even INEC's reputation for being sometimes disrespectful of court rulings.
Thank you very much. The Supreme Court judgment was delivered on 24th May, and the Commission had to sit and then look at the implications. And of course, the content of that judgment has wide implications, and the Commission had to look at the pros and cons and then come up with a position. And that was why on Saturday, this last weekend, after the meeting, the Commission called a press conference immediately and then announced its decision. The history of this particular commission, since it came on board in 2015, is that it has always obeyed court orders. Even sometimes, people tend to question the rationale behind our decision to obey court orders and judgment. So we have always had that very good record.
Okay, so what would you say is the basis under which INEC felt that they could, on this occasion, accept the court order or the ruling given by the Supreme Court? Having had a conversation just now with a member of the APC, it doesn't seem to be as though the APC genuinely believed that there were grounds under which the Supreme Court could have stood.
Well, this is not a matter of opinion. A judgment has already been delivered. From the point of view of the Commission, we are not interested in political party affairs. But what happened is that as far back as 9th of January 2018, the Commission released the timetable and schedule of activities for the 2019 general elections. And in that timetable, the stipulated time for the conduct of party primaries was between August and October. And unfortunately, and I must emphasize this, as far as INEC is concerned, APC did not conduct the party primaries at that time. And you recall that shortly after the expiration of that date, I think sometime October last year, we wrote to the APC leadership to say that we observed that you did not conduct your primaries, and then we don't expect you to field candidates for this election. It was quite clear, because the conduct of primary is extremely important for a political party, for candidates of any political party to emerge for the election. It's a constitutional thing. It's not something you invent. And since that time, since we came out with that position, various parties went to court. First, the Federal High Court, the Appeal Court, and now the Supreme Court. So it's very clear the position we took.
Well, there is a puzzle that some people have pointed out. They said that in the past that the courts had ruled that, when people vote, they vote for parties, not candidates, because it's a party itself that goes into the election. And that in this particular case in Zamfara, the people voted for the APC, and that, the Supreme Court should not have denied the APC that victory. What's your take on this?
Well, I don't think I possess the qualification, because I'm not a lawyer, to look at the technicality of, of the Supreme Court judgment. But I think one thing is very clear. Conduct of party primary is a responsibility of the political parties. Now, in order for candidates to emerge, you must conduct primaries. And there are rules governing the conduct of primaries, which INEC must also monitor, because we must have a report and all of that. But I keep saying it, we don't have anything against APC or any political party. The stipulated period for the conduct of the primaries, APC did not conduct the primaries. It is very clear to us. Well, I've heard narratives about they claiming to have conducted primaries. Our position is that they did not conduct the primaries. And because they did not do that and the deadline expired, we didn't expect them to field candidates. So coming to the Supreme Court judgment, the judgment is not against political party candidates. It's essentially that, look, because you did not conduct primaries, then you cannot say you have fielded candidates, and as such, the votes cast in your favor are wasted votes. So like I said, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to delve into an area where I have no knowledge at all.
Well, I mean, the INEC chair, during the press conference on the matter, talked about the importance of primaries. And we have seen, in a number of states, in Rivers, now in Zamfara, where primaries have become a big issue. And the Supreme Court has also, established the importance of primaries. Now, is there anything that, INEC is working on to make sure that, the kind of situation we have had in Zamfara and in Rivers does not happen again during elections? Or this is just up to the political parties to either follow the rules or not and then bear the consequences?
Well, thank you very much. At that press conference where the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, addressed journalists, he drew the attention of political parties intending to field candidates in the upcoming Kogi and Bayelsa governorship elections to draw lessons from the judgment of the Supreme Court and advised them that the conduct of primary is extremely important and they should not treat it with levity. So that the situation that arose in the case of Zamfara will not arise again. Because you see, the implication of not following the extant laws is this. Somebody is bound to go to court, especially in a country like ours where we have litigation-happy individuals. For the pre-election issues, we have over 500 petitions already. And I'm sure that you must have listened to the Presidential Election Tribunal when the president, the chair of that tribunal, was ruling out the numbers of the petitions they've had so far and how many panels they've had to set up to address all the issues. I think it is important. It is a political party affair, and we cannot force, we cannot sanction political parties for not conducting primary. We can only implore them and draw their attention to the rules. But if they don't follow the rules, then they must be ready to bear the consequences, which of course has happened in this case. I think that for the survival of the electoral system and democracy, we will continue to appeal to political parties that once you undertake to take part in the process, then you must abide by the rules and regulations, because that is the only way the system will survive. But if we don't, then, of course, somebody is bound to challenge whatever outcome that comes out of that, and then the court will have to take action.
Absolutely, sir. Now, what lessons do you think we can learn going forward from this? Should we necessarily be praising INEC for the fact that INEC actually called this out after the APC primary elections in Zamfara State, or should we be looking more towards the Supreme Court judgment, and should we be happy about that? What does it mean for Nigeria, per se, and elections going forward?
We don't need to be praised, and we don't look forward to being praised. For us, it's sobering to experience it, because it is totally avoidable, really. I think that for those of us who are on this side of the aisle that are regulating the system, it's sad when things like this happen when they shouldn't have happened. And it is also to underscore the fact that when rules are made, we must try as much as possible to obey such rules. And I will continue to appeal, we will continue to appeal to political parties to please abide by the rules. It's extremely important. When you don't abide by the rules and your decisions or outcome of whatever decision you take are challenged in court, this is the result we are going to get. And for us at INEC, it's important that political parties, look at the laws very well and then make sure that it comply with what is stated in there. Once this is done, we won't have issues at all. And going forward, I think that we will avoid this type of thing, we'll continue to do the right thing, and the electoral process will survive.
Well, let's talk about the Kogi and Bayelsa elections. What's the level of preparation at this moment? And what is the guarantee that Nigerians will not be confronted again in these two coming elections with the specter of inconclusive elections, which is something that has made INEC very unpopular among Nigerians?
Thank you very much. We are well prepared. Recall, between 2015 and when we had the 2019 general elections, we had conducted 7 off-season governorship elections. In fact, barely a week after this present commission came on board, we had to conduct the Bayelsa election, and then followed by the Kogi election. I think that now it's time to go back. Because this is what we have been doing, it shouldn't be a problem. And of course, because it's off-season, remember that it's of course, as a result of court judgment, that these elections had to be conducted off-season, as it were. And we will do what we have been doing. And if, God willing, if all the stakeholders play by the rules, we won't have inconclusive election. And by the way, I also need to say this. We really don't need to have inconclusive elections if the stakeholders play by the rules. There is a threshold for declaring results. If you don't tamper with the process, if you don't attack our polling units, kidnap our returning officers, or try to disrupt the process, unleash violence on our officials, on voters, in such a way that we will not be able to tally the result necessary for declaration, we cannot make a return. And because those things are clearly stated in the law, we cannot make a return. If we make that return and the aggrieved party goes to court, and then the thing is subjected, of course, to legal scrutiny, it will not pass through. And that's exactly what we are trying to say here. That look, if you allow INEC to play its role the way it should play it, we will make a return as quickly as possible. The governorship elections we have conducted in the past, within 48 hours, we declare the results. And we are prepared to do the same for Kogi and Bayelsa.
Now, Mr. Oyekanmi, based on what you've just said, what would you say INEC are working on, especially over the next 4 years leading up to the next elections? In 2019's elections, we did see a lot of violence. We did see a lot of inconclusive outcomes as well. And of course, people are not looking forward to this with elections coming forward. So how is INEC currently taking a step back and looking into the right solutions to these problems?
No, I will not agree with you that we had a lot of inconclusive elections in the just concluded elections. Remember when we conducted the governorship and State House of Assembly, we made a return for 22 states at first ballot. And the others that we couldn't make a return, it was quite clear. Now, we have this cooperation with security agencies. And providing security is not essentially INEC's business. It is the business of the security agencies. And that's why we have a platform where we meet quarterly to discuss these issues. And because the security agencies have cooperated with us, we've had a good run over the past 3 to 4 years. But of course, sometimes some things you did not plan for may arise during the election. I think that we'll still appeal to political parties that no election is worth the life of any human being. And even if somebody wins office right now, it's just a matter of 4 years, and then there will be an opportunity to go back again. And if you undertake to contest in an election, you must go with two minds. It's either you win or you lose. And if you win, fine. If you don't win, you develop the spirit of sportsmanship. And then we won't have to go through all this process of legal encumbrances that would, complicate the whole thing. On our part, the leadership of INEC has shown that it is very courageous and it is prepared to do the right thing. And if we find any of our staff engaging in any unethical thing, and that person is caught, he will face the music. We've demonstrated this over time, and will continue to demonstrate it. And of course, our appeal will still go back to the political parties, that in other places, when we have elections, we don't need to roll out the huge number of security personnel to man different places. Election is supposed to be a joyful activity. The Europeans are having their elections now. I've not heard of anybody being attacked anywhere. They are declaring the results, and the established parties are even losing ground in European elections as I speak, and nobody is being attacked as a result. Why can't we imbibe that here in Nigeria, so that you won't have any fear that if you go to the polling unit to cast your ballot, somebody will bring out a gun or a knife or cutlass and inflict harm on you. So that's our position.
Well, thank you very much, Rotimi Oyekanmi. But let me just ask you this. The certificates of return will be handed over to the PDP candidates from Zamfara State today. When is that event taking place, or is it ongoing as we speak?
No. The governorship and senatorial, the House of Reps, senatorial and governorship will be given today at the Electoral Institute at 2 p.m. While the State Assembly, the winners will receive theirs next week at our state office in Guzo. The resident electoral commissioner will give that certificate, but we are giving the ones for the governorship and the National Assembly today at 2 p.m. at the Electoral Institute of the Commission.
Well, thank you very much, Rotimi Oyekanmi, for helping us to clarify some of the issues surrounding the situation in Zamfara State. Thank you very much.